The wilderness is a place of beauty and solitude, where nature's raw power meets human curiosity. For many, hiking is an escape, a chance to disconnect from the chaos of modern life and reconnect with something primal. But sometimes, the trails we choose lead us to places we never imagined, where the silence of the woods hides secrets better left undiscovered. These are 3 true stories of hiking gone wrong, where adventure turned into nightmare. The Appalachian Trail stretches over 2,000 miles from Georgia to Maine, offering hikers a chance to experience some of the most breathtaking landscapes in the United States. But it's also a place where people go to find themselves, and sometimes that journey leads to tragedy. It was early October when I set out on my solo hike through Pennsylvania. The air was crisp, and the leaves were ablaze with autumn colors. I had been on the trail for over a week, savoring the solitude and the quiet. That morning, I woke to a light frost covering my tent, and as I packed up, I felt an unusual stillness in the air. The usual chorus of birds was absent, replaced by an eerie silence that made me uneasy. Around midday, I reached a small meadow, a rare break in the dense forest. The sun was high, casting long shadows through the trees. I decided to take a break and enjoy the view. As I sat on a log, munching on a granola bar, I noticed something odd in the distance. At first, I thought it was a bag or some abandoned gear, but as I looked closer, my heart froze. There, hanging from a sturdy branch of an oak tree, was a body. It was a young man, his head lolled to one side, his face pale and lifeless. His feet dangled about a foot off the ground, swaying gently in the breeze. I dropped my granola bar and ran toward him, my mind racing with hope and dread. "Hello? Can you hear me?" I shouted, but there was no response. As I got closer, the smell hit me, a sickening mix of decay and something metallic. His skin was cold and stiff when I finally mustered the courage to check for a pulse. He was gone. I stumbled back, my hands shaking. Who was he? Why was he here? The rope creaked softly in the wind, a sound that would haunt me for years. The forest seemed to close in around me, the silence now oppressive. I had no cell service, and I was miles from any town. I remembered a shelter about 3 miles back, and decided to run there as fast as I could. The run felt endless. My legs burned, and my breath came in ragged gasps. When I finally reached the shelter, I found a group of section hikers. They listened in shock as I explained what I'd found. One of them had a satellite phone, and we called 911. The rescue team arrived hours later, and I guided them back to the meadow. As they worked, I sat on a log, trying to process what had happened. Later, I learned the young man's name was Alex, a college student who had been hiking to clear his mind after a breakup. He had left a note in his journal, expressing his despair. It was a suicide, but that didn't make it any less horrifying. That night, back in my tent, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the trees sounded like the rope swinging in the breeze. And in my dreams, I saw Alex again, not hanging, but standing, his sad eyes fixed on me. "Thank you for finding me," he whispered. I woke with a start, my heart pounding. I ended my hike early, unable to continue. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind howls outside my window, I swear I can hear that rope creaking again, and I see his face, pale and still, watching me from the shadows. Mudstringer in North Carolina is known for its seclusion and stunning views. But for one group of friends, it became the site of an unnerving encounter that left them questioning what lurks in the shadows of the forest. It was supposed to be a fun weekend getaway. 5 of us, old friends from college, chose Mount Stringer for its remote beauty. The hike in was challenging, with steep inclines and rocky terrain, but we were all experienced hikers. We set up camp in a small clearing surrounded by dense forest, with a stream nearby providing a soothing soundtrack. That first night, we built a roaring fire and shared stories, laughter echoing through the trees. As the night wore on, we noticed something odd. At the edge of our campsite, partially hidden by the trees, stood a figure. At first, we thought it was a trick of the light, or perhaps a deer caught in the firelight. But as we watched, it became clear. It was a man. He was tall, dressed in dark clothing, his face obscured by shadows. He didn't move, just stood there, watching us. We tried to ignore him, thinking maybe he was another camper who had gotten lost. But as the hours passed, he remained there, unmoving, his gaze fixed on our group. We called out to him, "Hello? Do you need help?" But there was no response. It was as if he were a statue, silent and still. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows that danced across the trees. Every now and then, we heard twigs snapping in the distance, but we couldn't tell if it was him or just animals moving in the underbrush. Around midnight, we decided to go to sleep, hoping he would leave. But when I woke up around 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, he was still there, standing under the same tree, watching. I woke my friends, and we all saw him. We were freaked out now. We decided to stay awake, keeping the fire going and talking loudly, hoping to scare him off. But he didn't budge. It was like he was waiting for something. The darkness of the forest seemed to press in on us, and every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, felt like a warning. Finally, around 3:30 a.m., he turned and walked away, disappearing into the forest. We breathed a sigh of relief, but the damage was done. We couldn't shake the feeling that we were still being watched, that he might still be out there, lurking in the shadows. The next morning, we searched the area where he had stood, but found no footprints, no discarded items, nothing. It was as if he had never been there. We packed up early and hiked out, cutting our trip short. On the way back, we told a ranger about what happened, but he just shrugged, saying, "Sometimes people do strange things in the woods." To this day, I wonder who he was and why he was watching us. Was he just a harmless wanderer, or was there something more sinister at play? Now, when I go camping, I always choose well-populated sites, and I never forget to lock my car and keep my bear spray handy. The wilderness is beautiful, but it can also be a place where darkness dwells. And sometimes, that darkness takes the form of a silent watcher in the woods. The bushlands of New South Wales are vast and beautiful, but they also hold dark secrets, as one group of hikers discovered when they stumbled upon a site linked to one of Australia's most notorious serial killers. It was 2015 when my friends and I embarked on a backpacking trip through New South Wales. We were avid hikers, always seeking new trails to explore. This time, we chose a route that took us through some of the more remote areas of the state. On the third day of our hike, we came across a peculiar formation, a large rock platform, flat on top, with strange carvings etched into its surface. The carvings were crude, depicting what seemed like human figures and animals. There was something ominous about it, a feeling that this place had been used for something dark. As we approached, a cold wind picked up, whistling through the trees, and one of my friends shivered. "This place gives me the creeps," she said. We laughed nervously, but didn't linger. We took some photos and moved on, but the image of that platform stayed with me. There was something about it that didn't sit right. Years later, while watching a true crime documentary about Ivan Milat, the backpacker killer who terrorized Australia in the 1990s, I saw footage of similar rock platforms. The narrator explained that Milat used these altars in his gruesome rituals, placing them near the shallow graves of his victims. My blood ran cold as I realized we might have stumbled upon one of those altars. The documentary mentioned that these platforms were often located 300 yards from the graves, used perhaps for some twisted purpose. I immediately called my friends who had been with me on that hike. We compared our photos with those shown in the documentary, and although they weren't identical, they were strikingly similar. In conclusion, these stories serve as a chilling reminder that while the wilderness offers unparalleled beauty and adventure, it can also be a place of danger and mystery. Whether it's the tragic loss of life, encounters with unknown individuals, or uncovering sites of past horrors, hikers must always be prepared for the unexpected. It's crucial to hike with others when possible, to carry the necessary safety equipment, and to be aware of one's mental state. The trail can be a place of healing, but it can also amplify existing struggles if one is not careful. Moreover, these stories highlight the importance of respecting nature and the environments we explore. Some places hold histories that are dark and disturbing, and while we may be drawn to them out of curiosity, we must approach with caution and reverence. As we lace up our boots and set out on our next adventure, let us remember that the wilderness is not just a backdrop for our stories. It is a living, breathing entity with its own tales to tell, some of which are best left untold.